Welcome to the first episode of my Wellness Breathing Stretching channel. In this episode, I'll give you a general introduction to the extended exhalation breathing technique as a standalone practice and as done with walking and running. Let's look first at how we breathe. Breathing is something we do involuntarily. We inhale air for its oxygen, perform a gas exchange, and exhale air in order to emit the waste material of this gas exchange, namely carbon dioxide. We can distinguish between relaxed breathing and emergency breathing. In healthy people, relaxed breathing happens through the nose. Nose breathing warms up the air, filters it, and slows down the whole process. However, carbon dioxide is not only a waste material. Its presence in our lungs is instrumental in oxidation, that is, in loading our red blood cells with oxygen and delivering the oxygen to our cells. During normal breathing at rest, inhalation and exhalation take us the same length of time. But when we are in deeper rest, such as meditation or sleep, exhalation tends to be longer than inhalation. A longer exhalation slows down the emission of carbon dioxide and lengthens the presence of carbon dioxide in our lungs, which is good for blood and cell oxidation. Sometimes, however, we're not relaxed. Rather, we are under stress. For this, our body has an emergency way of breathing. One case of stress is tiredness. When we are tired, we yawn through our mouth to instantly get more oxygen in. Another case of stress is physical exercise. Here too, we need to take in oxygen more quickly, so we huff and puff, again through our mouth. In other words, the two emergency reflexes of yawning and panting use mouth breathing to bypass the more elaborate procedure of nose breathing. Obviously, breathing based on yawning cannot go on for a long time, but we often huff and puff for a long time. For example, when we run, prolonged panting is not good for us. It amounts to a long overuse of an emergency procedure. As I said before, breathing is primarily involuntary. It happens to us. We don't actively do anything. This is true for both relaxed and emergency breathing. However, we can also play around with breathing at will. The Indian sage Patanjali, who formulated the principles of yoga some 2,000 years ago, called this pranayama. He defined pranayama as the management of inhalation, exhalation, and suspension. Literally, pranayama means the restriction, yama, of breath, prana. We use our consciousness to manipulate inhalation, exhalation, and suspension. Of course, we cannot be aware of our breathing all day long, but we still can do it when we choose. Let's choose to include conscious breathing as a designated slot in our daily schedule. Doing extended exhalation breathing in chosen times will eventually have a positive effect on our involuntary breathing at the rest of the time. We can do conscious breathing in two ways: breathing meditation as a standalone practice, or breathing along with physical exercise such as walking or running. For breathing meditation as a standalone practice, we need to be in a comfortable sitting position. I do it with my legs crossed on a yoga mat or on a pillow, but any other comfortable upright sitting position will do. We're going to use mid-range lung capacity, namely, we do not fully inhale nor do we fully exhale. When we do breathing meditation, we take a deep, satisfying inhalation through our nose, and then we slowly start exhaling again through our nose. When we exhale, we count in our head the length of our exhalation. Was it 4, 6, 8, whatever? We repeat this pattern of inhalation and exhalation several times. The pattern should be regular, say to the count of 6. Do not measure the inhalation, only the exhalation. We go on with this for a couple of minutes. When we're comfortable with the count of 4 or 6, we may increase exhalation to 7 or 8, doing this again for a couple of minutes. If we're still comfortable, we can try adding a short suspension of breath at the end of the exhalation to the count of 2, 3, or even 4. As we get better at it, we may lengthen both the exhalation and the suspension. Note, we exhale more slowly, but we do not exhale more deeply. You want to remain in mid-range lung capacity and not to reach emptiness. This can be done for 10 to 20 minutes or even more. Suspending your breath is mentally gratifying and relaxing. It's a bit like the joy that free divers feel when they are deep underwater. In this exercise, we're just doing it on a smaller scale. It might seem scary at first, but most people can reach 1 minute of suspension in just a few weeks of practice. If you have trouble sleeping, you can try breathing meditation to help you relax. Instead of sitting, you can do it lying down on your back. Do conscious exhalation breathing, this time without suspension, until you drift off to sleep. So we have discussed breathing meditation as a standalone practice. Now let's turn to breathing along with another activity. Note that when we exercise, we breathe more deeply. Naturally, we go beyond mid-range lung capacity, closer to the full capacity. Let's start with physical activities that are inherently rhythmical, such as walking and running. In these activities, our breathing and the movement of our hands and legs are often synchronized. When we walk or run, we tend to use mouth breathing. Worse yet, we inhale and exhale at equal intervals. Most often, we do a 2-step inhalation and a 2-step exhalation. The ratio of steps during inhalation versus exhalation then is 2 to 2. In other words, physical effort makes us huff and puff. Now say we exercise for 20 minutes. During this time, we use the emergency procedure of panting for an extended length of time. Mouth breathing and panting are bad enough for us, but to make things worse, panting creates imbalance in our body. In walking and running, we start the inhalation and the exhalation always on the same foot. You can check this on yourself. Just march in place, inhale during 2 steps and exhale during 2 steps. Pay attention on which foot you inhale, on which foot you exhale. Yes, you always do both on the same foot. A ratio of 3 to 3 will slightly improve things. You will always inhale on one foot and exhale on the other. In the running literature, this equal inhalation to exhalation pattern is called breathing on a cadence, and it is said to cause imbalance in the function of the 2 lungs, to encourage muscle fatigue on one side of the belly, and to impair the process of blood and cell oxidation. If we extend our exhalation so that after an inhalation of 2 steps we exhale during 4 steps, we now perform extended exhalation, which is much better for us. But we still start both the inhalation and the exhalation on the same foot. In sum, all the equal length breathing patterns, whether even to even or odd to odd, are bad for us. So, If we would like to do extended exhalation breathing and at the same time synchronize our breathing with alternating limb movement, we need to choose a pattern that adds up to a total of an uneven number, namely a ratio of either even to odd or odd to even. In my walking, for example, I sometimes use a total 7 pattern. I inhale over 2 steps and exhale over 5. Or when the path gets steeper, I occasionally switch to a 2 to 3 or a 3 to 4 pattern. In all these breathing patterns, the ratio remains even to odd or odd to even, which is what we want. Note that you can add suspension to your breathing pattern, which is wonderful. In fact, in my own walking, I usually add 2 steps of suspension to my exhalation. So in fact, I don't use a 2 to 5 pattern, but rather a 2 to 7 pattern, where 7 includes 5 for exhalation and 2 for suspension. And don't forget, we're talking about nose breathing all along. Now, nose breathing while running is not easy at all, and it takes a while to adjust to. Clearly, nose breathing slows you down. But if you run for health, not for competition, the slowdown pays off with the benefits of improved breathing. Even competitive runners include nose breathing as part of their exercise to improve oxidation. In slower styles of running, for example, marathon running, that are not done in maximal effort, some runners nowadays incorporate nose breathing into their training and even into certain stretches of the run itself. We may note in passing that when we do breathing meditation, any count of extended exhalation is fine, since we do not synchronize breathing with movement. A final word about panting. As I said above, it is a natural emergency procedure. So if you feel you need to resort to huffing and puffing for a short while, don't hesitate to let it happen. But once you feel the emergency is over, try to go back to extended exhalation breathing. So let's summarize. We're now aware of the advantages of nose breathing and of extended exhalation, followed by suspension of breath. You can now decide to get on a training schedule in order to master this technique and improve your breathing pattern. Start this by practicing standalone breathing meditation. Then try it when you walk or run. But remember, easy does it. Take enough time to absorb yourself in each stage comfortably. I wish you success on your way to healthier breathing.